Mr. Valenzuela, thank you so much for joining us today. Now we're here to have a timely topic for you and our best qualified spokesman on the subject in the county. It may be in all of Northern California is here to talk with us today. So we're really looking forward to that. But before we start, let me talk about a couple things about some best practices for our Zoom meeting here. I guess the most important one is that you won't be needing, you're unlikely to be needing to speak today. We're going to try to do this all with the mute buttons on, which means you won't be able to speak. It's better that way because if you do have your speaker on and you'll find yourself becoming the preemptive speaker, like my screen has got a border around it because I'm speaking. So if you're speaking, you're going to have a border around you. So if your dog or your grandfather's clock or the mailman comes to the door and makes some noise, it's going to get recorded and you're going to light up. So we encourage everybody to make sure that your mute button is on, which means it's off. When the program starts, you may want to go from the big screen where right now I'm looking at everybody at one time. When the program starts, you may want to go to the speaker view, so you'll have a full one face to look at, and you'll be able to concentrate and focus on what's going on. Send your questions as they occur to you, and at the end, we're going to ask Mr. Valenzuela to address those questions. They will be the way to do that is to find the chat button down at the bottom of your screen, right there in the center, and then locate. If you touch that, you can find a lot of different things. Let me go with you. And I see Robert Evans on there, but what we want to do is to go to Dennis Marr. So get Dennis Marr in there, and then you can type a message right there where your cursor is. Can everybody follow that? So, and we can collect those questions as we go along, as you think of them, and we'll have some that'll be parsed for Mr. Valenzuela to respond to. And now I'd like to ask Dennis Marr, who's also known as Susan when he's borrowing his wife's computer, to introduce our guest speaker.
Okay, thank you, Howard. Let's see. I'm pleased to introduce this month's speaker, Claudio Valenzuela, Monterey County Registrar of Voters. The League of Women Voters of Monterey County has enjoyed a wonderful working relationship with the Elections Department, and the tone is set by Mr. Valenzuela. Of all the adjectives that could be used to describe him, the word dour is not one of them. He's perpetually upbeat and optimistic, and even when facing difficult challenges. If you do some internet searches, you find that just like many public officials, he's had to endure a lot of public criticism and such, which he faces with always a very cordial attitude. Mr. Valenzuela was appointed Registrar of Voters in 2014 after serving for more than 13 years within the department as Assistant Registrar and Precinct Services Official. He received his higher education at the Universidad Austral in Chile, Hartnell College in Salinas, and St. Thomas University in Minnesota. He is a 40-year resident of Monterey County, and I know a proud grandfather. So I'd like to present Claudio Valenzuela.
Thank you, Dennis. Quite an introduction there. I remember attending a couple of your meetings in the past few years. Well, I think the first one was at least 15 years ago. And yes, like Howard was saying, it was very enjoyable with a lunch and everything else. Times have changed. And in this very strange day, I'm looking outside and here, and I see a eerie gloom as everything is in sepia tones. It made me think of something else. Let me share my screen so we can start the presentation. So it reminds me of times go by, and one of those days certainly is women's suffrage, and the 100 years, we're celebrating 100 years of women's suffrage. What a beautiful way of celebrating. We put a display in our office, and with this pandemic, nobody can see it. So we brought you a picture of how it looks like. There's quite a story about, we're using a registrar, great register from the 1800s, when the voters in Monterey County voted for the first time to let women vote. And the first time it failed, and the second time it passed. But in that register, you can see the voters that voted for and against that measure. Anyway, I'm not here alone. With me today is Assistant Registrar Gina Martinez, and also Aina Gutierrez. She is Program Manager of Outreach. And I'll tell you, this is the second presentation we do. This is the kickoff week for the outreach activities for this November presidential election. We have many presentations scheduled, and we're looking forward to inform our viewers and our voters of the great plans that we have for them to exercise their right to vote. That said, let's talk a little about the background that brought us here today. Gina?
Yes, so there were several acts and executive orders and pieces of legislation that have been chaptered in the last few months that are really working to carve out how we can conduct the November's election. So in April, you may recall that the Monterey County Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution recommending modification of voting procedures. They sent a letter to the governor encouraging the governor to sign an executive order to allow us to conduct the election entirely by mail. On May 8th, Governor Newsom signed the executive order to expand the use of vote by mail to include all active voters, whether you're registered to vote at a polling place, vote by mail, or you're in a mail ballot precinct. And on June 3rd, Governor Newsom signed another executive order establishing the parameters for in-person voting opportunities. So we still have to have those. In addition, the executive order calls for a ballot tracking system to be in place in all counties. And Monterey County actually piloted this program, the ballot tracking program, for March's election. In June and in August, we had a couple of bills that were chaptered. They were urgency legislation so that we can send a ballot legally to every active voter, regardless of whether they request it or not, and so that we could provide in-person voting opportunities.
So we had basically two options that we can, there were viable options for Monterey County. One was to continue to open our polling places, or the other option was to do super consolidations. Why the other options were not viable? Because it required tremendous amount of technology that we didn't have, and also many other requirements that it was too difficult for us to put together in such a short period of time. If we had more time, we would have looked at the other options, such as voting centers. But again, I'm not going to discuss too much the option one, which is polling places, because you know how that option looks like. But option two, super consolidation, called for one location for every 10,000 voters, and open October 31st through Election Day. So we took into consideration a couple of, well, four decision-making points that we felt were the best way to go about this election. Those points were safety, equitable access to all voters, the security of the voters, security and safety, of course, of the elections, and the fiscal responsibility. So in addition to the polling locations, we decided that I think it was important. We have had an early voting center in Salinas forever, but we felt that with a great population of the peninsula, we should also have a voting center in that area, a place that was centrally located for people from North County, Castroville and beyond, and of course Carmel and beyond, to be able to vote there. We were very lucky to engage Embassy Suites in Seaside, just a few blocks from Highway 1, and good transportation to it, and exceptionally good access to the facility. This is a set of rooms that are to the left of the main entrance of the Embassy Suites, very appropriate for this location and for voting. And also, they are allowing us to do drive-through in their parking lot. So you can drive through and drop your ballot without even getting out of your car. And of course, the polling, let me tell you about the opening, the times we're gonna open those centers. So the centers are going to open October 5th through Election Day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And the last 2 weekends before the election, we're gonna be open Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5. And of course, the polling places are gonna be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. On November 3rd. We have 85 locations across the county. Those locations are a few more than what we had in March. Why? Because a few jurisdictions are voting by districts instead of at large. So we had to carve out some more precincts for them. And of course, some locations have changed because of that. So all that information is going to be presented to the voters in their packets and when we send the ballots. I think this is Gina's favorite slide, isn't it?
And this is the perfect group to discuss it with as well, because I know all of you have worked at the polling place at some point in time and repeatedly, so thank you for that. But we are in need of poll workers. As you know, a number of our poll workers are in that vulnerable category for COVID-19, and they're stepping aside and leaving a pretty big hole to fill in our county. So we're looking to get the word out that we take poll workers of any age, in particular those 18 and over. We also take high school students who are 16 years of age, and we're having, we're looking at your group. I know your group typically works with high schools in conducting some mock elections, and so this is a great opportunity to present to them as well, that they can come and actually work in a polling place in what is probably one of the most historically significant elections in our lifetimes, and they can contribute to their community. All our poll workers are required to read, speak, and write in English, but we do need a number of people who are bilingual in English and either Spanish, Tagalog, Korean, or Vietnamese. And you folks know the time, work on election day from 6 a.m. until approximately 9:30 p.m. It may be a quicker evening that evening, depending on how many people actually show up to vote in person, because everyone is getting a ballot this time. For more information, we're going to ask that you please call 796-1485, and that's our main poll worker line. It takes a simple phone call. If you could share that phone number and that email address and the need for poll workers, it would be greatly appreciated.
And so the trainings are going to be, some trainings are going to be in person, obviously with all the health guidelines in place, but also we will have virtual training sessions via Zoom as well. we're going to try to protect our poll workers all the way through this event. Let's talk a little bit about vote by mail. Okay, so a little background on vote by mail. So in 1978, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of you are election connoisseurs. You have the history of elections very well memorized. But I believe in 1978, California eliminated the requirement for an approved excuse to vote absentee. And around 2000, also eliminated the need for voters to request a ballot by mail every time. So the requirement to provide an excuse went away in 78 or so. And then again in 2000, you could become a permanent vote by mail voter without having to apply every election. That triggered an avalanche pretty much of people signing up for this service because it's great for our BC lives. People work in one town and live in another. They don't have time to go to the polls. So you can take your time and complete your ballot at your own pace, do your own research at home, and it's so much easier. Also in 2007, pretty much the naming convention was standardized, and we don't make a distinction anymore here in California. Vote by mail is vote by mail, so there's no distinction with absentee, by the way. If you look at that graphic that we have there in front of you today, you see a number that should be of interest to you. 201,518 registered voters. That is, we have crossed the threshold to over 200,000 registered voters in Monterey County. For some of you that follow these numbers, this is really interesting because for years we were around 150 or so. It will go down and up and down, but it has been going steady up in the last 8 years or so. I would say in the last 10 years, it started to climb, and we have reached over 200,000 registered voters in Monterey County. Unheard is great. We've done a lot of outreach, but also I think the online voter registration has helped. It's so easy to do that now that people are taking advantage and register in record numbers. 79% of those registered voters already vote by mail. And only 1%, of course, we have military and overseas. We send their ballots between 60 and 45 days before the election. As you can see, in California, we pretty much got this. It's not a problem voting by mail in California. So you want to talk a little bit about this, Gina, about our plan, so to assure these folks that this is we got this type of slide to reassure you that we have made plans, we have done everything possible to make sure that this election goes as smooth as possibly we can make it.
So this slide is our vote by mail plan and what to expect as a voter, what to expect as folks who go out and campaign. And then the next slide will go further into our partner agencies and what we're doing to be proactive in getting our ballots out as soon as possible. So with the vote by mail plan, all active voters will receive a ballot in the mail. Ballots will be mailed no later than October 5th. And voters, we're asking all our voters, every single voter, to check their voter status at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. They can also just call our office. But this is a great tool to use to see what your mailing address is. We get a lot of information from partner agencies, including the DMV and the USPS. So you want to check that, make sure that we have the correct mailing address on file, make sure we have the correct residential address. Voters should also register or re-register if they have to update their information at registertovote.ca.gov. And we like this acronym, you register in a snap. So anytime your signature changes, your name changes, you have an address change, either residential or mailing address. And then for a primary, your party change, you want to register and update that information just as soon as possible, get it out of the way, because 4 years later for the next primary, we're all going to forget that we had that change of heart and change parties, and now it's a primary and we thought we did it and we didn't. So it's always good just to get it taken care of right away. Now, ballot return options, there are plenty. We're going to address what's been covered in the media about USPS in the next slide, but the vote by mail packet that comes to you with your ballot, with your return envelope, it will also include instructions on how to mark your ballot and your return options. One is absolutely the USPS. Postage is paid. This is a relatively new thing for Monterey County. We are paying all postage. There will be also 5 exterior ballot drop-off boxes throughout the county that are going to be available for extended hours from October 5th to November 3rd. Those are 24-hour drop boxes, just like the box outside of our office. There will be expanded access to include select public libraries in Monterey County. Some of our city halls are closed to the public, so we're adding different locations within those cities as well. Now, you can always drop off your ballot at Monterey County Elections or at the Embassy Suites, and you can just drive on through and drop it off. In addition, state legislation has set up the fact that you can drop it off anywhere in the state. So if you reside at the far end of Monterey County, south of Monterey County near San Luis Obispo, and you feel that the San Luis Obispo County drop box is more convenient to you, you can drop it off there and San Luis Obispo will send it to us. And that goes for North Monterey County, dropping off in Santa Cruz County, or in San Benito County. You can drop off anywhere.
So what is the USPS doing and how we have worked with them? I have to tell you, we've worked with them for, as far as I know, more than 16 years. We meet with representatives of the USPS before every election. And these are local representative postmasters, as well as the people that run the distribution or the processing plant that they have in San Jose. The majority of the mail coming to our county goes through San Jose. It's a large plant. It's about 6 city blocks. I have been there, and I'm very impressed with the professionalism of those people there. So again, we meet with them, and they are committed to prioritize the processing of our vote by mail. They have a plan in place to ensure they have allocated enough resources. And it's all based on historical averages from 2016 and 2018 election, but also with the projected numbers for this election. Also, our printing and mailing vendor also has a plan in place to receive our data, our voter data extract early and start mailing in advance of October 5th. And then what are we doing? Monterey County Election is providing those voter data extract early to our vendor, so they can complete the ballot production ahead of schedule. The idea is to try to mail ballots earlier than October 5th. We're also expanding in-person ballot return options between October 5th and November 3rd by the early voting sites, and having all these additional boxes that we have installed, or we are installing as we speak, and as well as the partnership that we have had with the library system. This is not just the Monterey County free libraries, but also libraries in Monterey, the city of Monterey, and the city of Carmel as well. And of course, all the polling places are open on November 3rd for return services. So there's no, if you still feel that you don't, for some reason, you don't trust the mail, you can have all these other options to return your ballot. And of course, the legislation has helped out quite a bit. The governor and the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, they have been instrumental on getting legislation on time for us to benefit our voters. One of the things that is very important, as you recall, voters had the opportunity to return their ballots on election day and postmarked by election day. And then if we received that envelope 3 days after the election, it was accepted and counted. Now, I don't know if you remember a few months ago, the USPS said that they couldn't guarantee mail to be delivered back to us within 10 to 15 days. Well, the legislators went ahead and gave the voters and us 17 days. So if the voter returned their ballot and is postmarked on election day, that ballot can be returned 17 days after the election. We can receive it 17 days after the election and still be counted. And of course, allow vote by mail ballots to be returned to any voting center, any polling place, any election office, or ballot return box in the state of California. And that is just a great benefit for the voters. Aina, you want to talk a little bit about the outreach plan?
Yes, happily. Thank you, Claudio. So as you all can see, there is a lot of information that we need to get out there, that we need to share with our voters. In general, outreach has always been, an essential part of every election. And this election in particular comes with a lot of new information. So having informed voters is very important to us, which is why we're going to reach out to voters in many, many different ways through many different platforms. So we're going to have PSAs on television, on radio. We're going to have direct mailings that go out to the voters, newspaper, social media. So anything you can think of, we're going to be there. And nowadays, it's so easy to get information from everywhere, basically, and from so many different sources that it's crucial that we make sure that the information is coming from official sources. So when it comes to elections in Monterey County specifically, there are two official sources. One is the California Secretary of State Office, and then, of course, Monterey County Elections. Both sources have many resources, from fun informational videos to frequently asked questions, toolkits, and these resources are great not only for first-time voters, but also for any voter who wants the latest and greatest information. So when sharing information or when seeing information, always go back to those main sources and make sure that it is the current information, because, with elections, information is constantly changing. So it's just always double check and make sure that you go to our social media pages and you share our information, go to the Secretary of State website, and again, just check those sources.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough that the information regarding how we conduct this election here in Monterey County need to come directly from us or from the Secretary of State. In social media, there's so much information and disinformation, misinformation that comes from other states, other places, and we don't have any control of that. So we beg you, please go directly to the source, Secretary of State or our office directly, and to get the official information about the election. Gina, you want to talk about the numbers now?
Yes. So who are we reaching out to? Well, this is a breakdown of our voters, and Claudio talked about it earlier. We do have a record 201,518 registered voters, and that number is as of yesterday, September 8th. So as you all know, registration is an ongoing thing. It's like a running river. It's just constantly changing. And so the numbers have fluctuated today, I can guarantee it. But this is a party breakdown as of yesterday. And this is numerically, and then here we go with the percentages, what that looks like, and that no party preference and miscellaneous, where voters are not choosing a qualified political party, is a very popular choice as well.
So this is the plan in here for voters. They can vote safe and vote by mail. That's going to be our big theme: vote safe, vote by mail. How they can prepare? Well, by checking the registration status, going to voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. We have it on our website. We have it in social media, everywhere the voters can have access to. Also, they can track the ballot. We talked about that early. It's a great service. It's free, and it takes a couple of minutes to sign up. You don't get spam. You just get the emails from the system telling you when the ballot was put in the mail for you, when you return it, if we receive the envelope, and it even tells you if the ballot was counted or not. And so we might use the system also if we need to reach out to you to sign your ballot if you forgot to sign the envelope. And the other service that's interesting to note, I signed up for it not too long ago, and I think it's pretty useful, is informed delivery. This is a service, a free service of the USPS, and you get a notice also via email or a text message telling you what is coming in your mail. That is very useful, especially for rural boxes out there that you might not be checking every day. So we also are going to provide in-person assistance, of course. Beginning October 5th through November 3rd, we are going to also ask anybody that wants to vote in person to bring their vote by mail ballot. If they don't have their ballot, we will ask them to vote provisional. Yes, we process the provisional ballots. And of course, we're going to ask for people to wear a mask and to practice social distancing. If they don't have a mask, we will have masks for voters to wear as well. But even if somebody refuses to wear a mask, we will allow them to vote curbside. For some of you that have worked as poll workers, you know what vote curbside looks like. We can bring the ballot to the person in their own car. And of course, we're going to ask you to please bring your own pen if you can. And this is a lot easier that way. I carry my own pen everywhere I go, especially if I know I'm going to have to sign something or complete a form. So, and of course, we're going to ask people to volunteer to be poll workers. If you want to vote in person, make sure also you do your part and volunteer to work at the polls. Aina, you want to talk about the envelope?
Yes. So this right here, the image that we can see is what voters can expect to see in their mailbox. On the backside, we just have the basic infographic information of the steps that need to be taken to fill out that ballot and get it back to us. We also have all our contact information. So if you do need to contact us, if you have any questions, you're welcome to just pick up the phone and any one of our staff can help you out with any questions you may have. Now, inside of that envelope, we have the blue envelope where the voter will put in their ballot. This, like Gina mentioned before, it's the second election that we have postage paid. So voters don't even have to worry about that. And then the very important part is to sign that envelope. We cannot stress that enough. It's the most important part. Just sign your envelope, give us that autograph. And then this year, another new feature is that top part, it's the peel and stick. So we're trying to keep it as sanitary and as safe as possible. So to seal that envelope, you just have to take off that strip, seal it up, and it is safe to arrive to us.
Very good. Gina, important dates?
We often hear election day, and well, it's not election day anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. Now we have election season. It's the whole month before that last day to vote, and that begins October 5th. That's when the last day that we can send those mail ballots to our voters who are registered before October 5th, and we'll continue sending ballots with subsequent as people register or change their address information. And that's also the date that early voting begins. October 19th is the last day to register, but even then we have a safeguard in place for those who forget to register. We have October 20th through November 3rd. That's our conditional voter registration period. That's why those polling places are so important, because oftentimes we find that people kind of don't have it in their head to register early and get squared away, and now they're at the polling place. Well, we can offer them conditional voter registration and make sure those folks are registered and that their provisional ballot will be counted. November 3rd is the last day to return your mail ballot in person or postmark, and it's the last day to vote in person. It's the only day you can vote at a polling place.
And I think we have reached the end of the presentation. Of course, I'm sure there's some questions, so we are going to be around to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to stop sharing right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Claudio. I do have some questions that came in during your talk, and then others that we collected earlier. There were a number of questions on signatures. People saying, I don't remember how I used to sign. What should I do? I don't remember whether I put a J in my name or not. Well, what should I do? Everyone is concerned that their signatures match what you have on your file. So what do you say to somebody like that?
Very, very good question. I have to tell you that our permanent staff goes through training to do signature verification by FBI experts. And I think we have attended already 2 classes, 2 certifications, some of us, but it's one of the favorite things for Gina to do. So Gina, you want to talk a little bit more how we do these?
Signatures are fascinating.
Why is it important to have a good signature?
Yeah, it is important to have a good signature, and we usually have multiple signatures for all of our voters. We keep track of all those registration forms that you send in. When you register online, we get your signature from the DMV. So we have the information there. It's not so much your full name. The law allows us to accept, if I'm Joan Q voter and I sign my registration card Joan Q voter, and then I go and sign my envelope JQ voter or J voter, as long as I sign it in the same writing. So that's where that specialized training comes into play. Is if we're looking at the writing, can we tell it's you? People get married and change their last name. Their writing remains the same. We can point out and look for multiple points of congruence and see that that person wrote that signature on the envelope. We can also tell when we have someone who's been signing all the way along and then suddenly we have a very radically different signature. When we see that and we can't match the 2 signatures, regardless of the letters that they've included, whether it's initials at the beginning and their last name or some sort of abbreviation, or they just provided initials completely and didn't sign the whole thing with their last name, we're able to tell the writing. If the writing does not match, we're looking for loops, we're looking for curvature, we're looking for skilled versus unskilled writers. When the writing does not match, we reach out to the voter and we say, look, we have these signatures on file for you, and the signature doesn't match the envelope. Did something happen? Did you sign your envelope? Let's correct this signature. We've had cases where the person has had a stroke. I had a family member who had a stroke and his signature changed radically after that stroke. So we had to have him update his signature because clearly the signatures changed. My favorite is always the 18-year-olds who, they're millennials now and they're 28, 29, ruling the world, but they were 18 and they provided the most perfect crooked signature of their complete name. And now they're the sophisticated tech person and they're providing a symbol. and it doesn't have any semblance to that initial signature that they gave. We reach out to them too and say, like, at some point you must have changed your signature. This doesn't match. And they say, oh yeah, you know, this is how I sign now, and it just suits my personality. And so we had them re-register with that information. They signed the affidavit that this is them. They voted in this county, only in this county, and this is their new signature.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that we reach out to voters immediately if the signature is missing, for example, or it doesn't match. And the voters have up to 3 days before we certify the results of the election to cure that signature. So certainly the law is very much in favor of the voter curing that signature and making that ballot count.
And what should a voter do if they want to make sure that their signature is the one that they are using? Can they just re-register?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's simple. They can do it online. If they do it online and the DMV has a signature on file for them, that signature will be provided to us. If they don't have it, then they will have to print that registration affidavit, sign it, put it in the mail for us. And again, of course, you can re-register in any library, public library, and at also our office anytime.
Okay. Question came in, what if on the weekend before the election, a wildfire breaks out and I have to flee my house? And what should I do?
Well, if that person has not voted and they have their ballot, or they misplaced their ballot, they don't have it, they can certainly contact us immediately to get a replacement. If it's too close to the election, they can just go and vote at a polling place or an early voting center. It's important to remember that voting twice is a crime. Here in the next county, in the other county, and in the entire United States. Just let's put that aside. So let's make that very clear. We only count one ballot. The first one that arrived to us is counted. Okay, but that person will have the opportunity to vote until election day.
Thank you. What if you vote early and then something happens that changes your political view? Is there any way you can change your vote?
Well, once we receive our ballot, is the equivalent of putting it on the box. So no, there will not be a chance to change your vote at that point.
When are the vote by mail ballots counted? Can you just discuss in general how you process the vote by mail ballots before the election, and then the ones that you receive on election day?
Absolutely. So the ballots, as we receive them, and by the way, we have the new law now allow us to start processing and scanning ballots immediately, starting October 5th. Before it was 10 days before the election, but now is from the beginning of the voting season, which is October 5th. So as soon as we receive the envelopes, we check the signatures, and then we scanned the ballots. The scanned files are kept in our secure servers. These are servers that are not connected to the internet. And on election day, then we release the count. But there's no reports before election night. No results before election night. It's just the scanning of the ballots. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. When will the information come out about where all the drop boxes are and such?
Well, we're sending that information with your ballot package. So every single voter will have that information, where they can return it, includes the ballot boxes, the library locations, some city halls, and also the polling places as well. And of course, the very favorite, your very favorite vote by mail sticker as well. I think we were the first county to implement vote by mail stickers. People were really upset when they voted by mail and they didn't get their sticker. So.
Yes, having worked at the polls, I know how much people like those stickers.
Yeah.
Have you been successful in recruiting college students and such to work at the polls?
It's interesting. We have had more calls and emails to work from young people than usual. Normally for presidential elections, because they're so high profile, we do get more people to volunteer. But this year, I think we have had more people coming forward. I don't know if I could see if I can show you an email. Let me find it. An email that we received. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but we received an email from a young fellow that wanted to volunteer to protect the older population. And we have received more emails like that. It's very comforting that there's people, there's civic-minded young people that want to help. But we need more. I think we have about 600 poll workers already signed up. We need to have about 1,000. Okay, that includes the reserves and such. So, and there are people that drop at the last minute as well. So we need at least 1,000 people to conduct the election.
A question did come up when we were recruiting our clerks about is there going to be any extra physical security for polling places and such?
As you know, we cannot have police uniform and people with guns at the polling places. But certainly, excuse me, we contact all our law enforcement partners throughout the county to alert them of any, they know where the polling places are in their locations, and we share that information with them and alert them that what the law is in terms of electioneering, which is the most common disturbance, electioneering or aggressive observing that disturbs instead of facilitates voting. So that's one of the things that we do, but it's not different than any other election, Dennis.
Well, let's see. I see Jim Emery with his hand up.
Is there any effort you're making to convince voters that everything is secure? I mean, the talk you gave today is certainly very convincing to me, but Mr. Trump, of course, has been spreading some fear that the whole process is not going to be completely up and up. Is there anything any steps you can take to answer those questions, to assure people that their vote is 99.99% safe?
Right. So in different circumstances, I would invite people to visit us and talk directly to us. And we have been very successful. I think seeing the operation, especially our new facility, people really understand the professionalism of our team and what we go through, the pain we take into making sure that not only we provide the safety and security of the election, but also transparency. Transparency is very important to us, and to be able to show that the election is secure is very important. I think talks like these are very important, and we're going to continue to do it. And hopefully through our PSS and our social messaging, we'll get that message out as much as we can. And of course, we ask you to disseminate the information and provide the two sources to people that might be hesitant about the security. Again, so Secretary of State website, and of course our own website, and they can even call us and call the Secretary of State as well. The best sources of information about election administration in the state of California.
Let's see, I got another question on chat that says, do you need people to staff the early voting sites?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do you need people to staff the early voting sites, or are you going to use your own employees?
We have the management is going to be with our own employees, but we have some positions available. Yes, if anybody needs or are willing to help us. Again, these are for the full month. We cannot split people or split the schedule. So yes, if somebody likes to volunteer for that and to give us a call, and we'll set them up through a temp agency, I believe. And
okay.
If you need to add anything to my responses, please jump in.
Vicky, did you want to say something? You'll need to unmute. I don't see it.
Well, she's unmuting. Let me read another question. Do election professionals like yourself, Mr. Valenzuela, share best practices across the country, or at least across the state?
Yes, across the state, yes, not so much across the country, but we have a very active professional association with more than 800 members. And we do have constant communication between counties. We also have a conference every year, and of course our legislative meeting every December. Although this year is such a special year, we're not having one of those. So the majority of the communication has been via Zoom meetings and emails as well. The other thing that we have done in the last 6 to 8 months is we have had working groups with the Secretary of State and either the board of directors of the California Association of Clerk and Election Officials, and or some other groups as well, other interested groups in elections, including the League. So we have participated here as county, and also as a representative of the board of directors of CSEO. I'm in the board, and I'm one of the chairpersons of the different areas of the state of California. So yeah, we do that very actively, and we're sharing PSAs and outreach materials as well for this election.
Well, go ahead, Howard.
Vicky, can you unmute? Vicky, go ahead.
I'm wondering about, there have been stories in Pacific Rim about people stealing mail. And I worry that especially if I had yard signs, my ballot might be a target. what would I do if I don't receive a ballot?
Well, it's simple. You just call us and we can send you a new ballot. We are going to cancel the first ballot. So if somebody attempts to vote on that, it will be canceled. It will not be counted. So we only count one from you. But I do suggest informed delivery for areas that are prone to mail theft. It is very good. I happen to live in an unincorporated area of the county, so the box sometimes unattended, for a couple of days, and so mail might accumulate that. I have informed delivery now, so I know what I'm receiving and when I'm receiving it. It gives you also the estimated time of arrival of your mail, so I strongly suggest to sign up for that. It's very simple and very useful.
And where do we sign up?
At the USPS, just go to the website, the US Post Service, and type in the search, just type informed delivery. Even if you go to Google and just type USPS informed delivery, you'll probably get to it right away.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We are coming up on 1 o'clock. So Claudio or Gina or Aina, if you have any final comment, please speak. And then,
I sent Dennis Marr the link to the informed delivery. So if you'd like to share that with everyone that's here today, you can definitely do so.
Great.
Okay, Will, thank you.
I just have to say that Dennis, in your comments in the beginning, you said that I'm an optimist, and I think to be in the business of election administration and a voter, you have to be an optimist. We always, elections are nothing but an attempt to improve things, to get things done, and to improve our systems of democracy. So with that, I will say thank you for having me today and having Gina and Aina.
Yeah.
And anytime you want more information about elections, you know where to find us. We're here.
We know you're always on the job. That's right. So
Thank you, Claudio.
I'm going to throw this back to Howard.
Yes, thank you both, Gina and Aina and Claudio, for sharing with us today this amazingly complex matter of providing a voting matrix that assures all Monterey County registered voters the opportunity to vote in a way that is easy, convenient, tamper-proof, accurate, timely, and above all else this year, safe. Thank you. Before you all leave and sign out, let me just remind you about next month's meeting. Helen Hutchison, one of the League's illuminaries, will be talking to us about the League's positions on the many ballot questions on the California ballot, especially Prop 15. Prop 15 is the one that modifies the old well-known Prop 13 that has limited all our property taxes increases since 1978. It's up for revision, and she'll be focusing on that. We look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday, the October the 14th at 11:45. And stay safe. Thank you.